right, we're live. We are live, man. About to head out of 2023. Can you believe that? These years, man, it just. But wow. Obviously, we're gonna do the wrap up. Myself and Train's gonna hop on in a minute. Where's he at? But yeah, man, we've had a crazy year. Very kind of like a changing of the guard kind of year as it concerns really now, man. Where boxing is going to be televised. We'll get into that. Meaning, boxing not being on Showtime or HBO at this stage of the game, man, is kind of crazy. I see Train just popped in here. Like I said, very eventful year, and a lot of changes going into 2024. There we go, Train. Yeah, it was goody.
Roberto Flag, what's up, bro?
Yeah, can you believe, man? 2023 is slowly approaching its end, and man, we've had a year. Like a lot of changes going into 2024, but this is kind of the wrap up. Wrap up show. we had
Absolutely.
the literal last major fight of 2023 a couple days ago with Inoue and Top at I think it was 6 something in the morning on a Tuesday, the day after Christmas.
Right.
And we always joke about those time frames and like trying to be able to watch those fights, man. But man, where do we start, man? 2023 in general, man, I think was the story of Showtime and all the fights that they were putting out, and then obviously, some of the little chatter we were throwing out there earlier in the year kind of came to fruition as we saw the end of Showtime boxing a couple of weeks ago or last week, which is still crazy to say. We're going to live in an era without Showtime or HBO televising
Crazy.
boxing, man. So give me your
Crazy.
two cents on that.
Well, it's funny. Just somebody just shot me a DM. It was asking me should they cancel their Showtime. I said it depends on what you're using it for. He said boxing. I said, well, you can go ahead and put an X through that because there's no more boxing there. So, a lot of people, crazy as it may sound, they subscribe to some of these networks strictly for boxing. So
Yeah,
if they no longer showcasing boxing, it's no longer, you no longer have a use for it. It's crazy because like you and I, you know, we're old enough to remember like, pretty much that was a source for boxing. It was HBO, Showtime. I mean, you had fights on USA, Tuesday night fights, um, ESPN Friday night fights, but like the bulk of the big time fights was either on Showtime or HBO. And recently HBO got out of boxing, and we kind of saw the writing on the wall. I think Floyd was the first to kind of go over there to get that big contract. Not that they didn't have boxing before, but HBO was always like the front like the poster child for the sport for blockbuster fights. Not that Showtime hadn't had them, because they did, but HBO was like criminal and criminal. They was at the top of the food chain for the big time fights, and then Showtime kind of took the baton and took it over. Everybody started getting big deals. That's back when the networks would give you deals. The TV networks would give fighters deals. And Showtime was, opening their checkbook up, and Floyd was able to get a 6-fight deal out of them. I think Canelo got a deal out of them. Did Cotto get one of those deals too? I can't remember from Showtime.
not with Showtime, no.
Not with
He had been,
Showtime.
but not during those times,
Okay.
no.
Not during that last leg that they had. But anyway, long story short, the fights is over with on that network. It was a good time, a good era. Everything must come to an end. We're moving on to streaming. You can keep fighting it all you want. My man Roberto was telling me years ago when I was stubborn and I still had corded cable. And he said, "Bro, you gotta cut the cord. You know, you're gonna be left behind." And look where we at. You know, talking about boxing potentially only being available on streaming networks. I think Top Rank still got their deal with ESPN, which is still on regular ESPN TV, but that's not going to be for long either. But man, what a year though it's been. Um, Definitely one of the best years in boxing in the last 30 years, for sure. So much to get into. And before, we get into start breaking stuff down, you and I just want to just kind of like preference what we get ready to get into, because people get wrapped up into, oh, well, I put it like this. Like, two things can't be true. It's like, in a way, he's the fighter of the year. Crawford, he's the fighter of the year. It's no debate. Like, we potentially have four guys that you could throw in the mix for fighter of the year. There was a whole bunch of fights of the year, knockout of the year, performance of the year. I saw you put that up. Like, it's so many different ways we can chop this pie up, because that's what happened when you got so many good fighters and fights taking place. So it's a lot to dive into, bro.
No, you made a good point. I mean, there was a lot of good fights this year to where our picks and the way we look at it normally doesn't stand out as easy as it is in other years, where we've seen, again, like some performances from some particular fighters, where some fighters did in the span of a year, in relation to what they did. And a lot of it is in relation to what they did last year. Like, how much did they, I mean, there's like,
Yeah.
most improved or whatever, but you're always looking at the trajectory. And there were fighters this year, man, that really stepped up and made statements, and that's why it's not that easy this year, man. I mean, you can
Right.
bring up Bud, you can bring up Inoue. Listen, you can bring up Devin Haney. Is it
Yeah.
concern? However, you had the Lomachenko fight. I mean, you can hear people say, "Oh, he lost." Like, he got a win, and then went up
Doesn't
in the
matter.
next
Yeah.
division and fought, would somewhat argue, at least at that point, the consensus champion, give or take, in his first fight, and beat him very soundly. So there's just arguments to be made. And then again, you had brought up Inoue, and then with Crawford, I personally, I think that performance of the year, but there's context to it.
Yeah.
So,
David
yeah,
Benavidez is another guy you could throw in the mix. He's
he made a
Caleb
splash.
Plant.
What have we been calling? What have the fans been calling for him? And it's not so. I mean, it's a lot of detractors and people that Yeah, I get it, but for
Right.
the
Right.
most part, David Benavidez has been a guy that even all of us have been all right. How about you and Caleb Plant? We saw that, and
Right.
then we were given this Demetrius Andrade fight, and he, at this point, man, he really is making a claim for what potentially could happen September of next year. The fight that we all want is him and Canelo Alvarez. I think he's earned it at this stage. I mean, he's not going to get it next. I don't know what the next fight would be, but he obviously made, I feel like, a big splash this year, getting out of this, like, who have you fought kind of aura that he's had around. But
Right. No, I agree. Yeah, I agree. It's funny, right? I'm glad you just to spin the block back to the Devin Haney point. And I was on a live with Coach New the other day, and he brought up a good point. Mustafa's boxing. He said we don't we gotten to this point in boxing, we don't allow fighters to develop. Like, everybody want a finished product right off the rip. And if you go through the history of boxing, ironically, I got a great reference point in back of me. You see that one? That wasn't Nomas. That's the original Duran and Leonard, part one. Leonard lost that fight. I think people forget this in history. Leonard, because I know some people are like, well, it was a close fight, could have went either way. No, on the records, he lost the fight. He learned from the fight, and it was a different fight in the rematch. And I use this as a reference because thank God these guys didn't come up in this in this world, in this climate, where they want to finalize you after one performance against another great
Right.
fighter. Like Devin Haney, anybody with a set of eyes, and I'm going to go somewhere else with this. I don't care if you fell from the planet Pluto and never even knew nothing about this country or this sport, you could see that that's not a lightweight. This is a guy that might even had a rough 140 cut.
Yeah.
And he was fighting that lightweight. I don't know how he did it, but he did it. No excuses. He signed the contract. He fought that the weight he was supposed to fight at. You mix that in with he fought with Lomachenko, a two-time gold medal Olympian, Roberto.
Yep.
Two-time gold medal Olympian, and it's not the easiest guy to fight. Young fighter coming up. It's the fight of biggest fight of his life, and it was a close fight. Shocker. That's how it's supposed to be.
Right.
That,
Right.
that's how it's supposed to go like that. So I say that, and the only reason why I'm saying that because I see a lot of pushback because people will be like, "Oh, well, how can somebody like him?" Again, it's just we have him in a conversation. We're not saying he's the fighter of the year, but he deserves an honorable mention. You can't negate and try to pick apart. He struggled against a great Hall of Fame fighter, and then he moves up in weight and dominates a guy in his own weight class and basically turns him into a sparring session.
Yeah.
Like, how is that guy not in the conversation? That again, it doesn't mean that he's fighter of the year, but when you're having a fighter of the year conversation normally go like this. Let's pick from fighter A, B, C, D, or E. You got to have a list of guys to pick from. And I just think Devin Haney fit the bill. I just think he catches a bum rap for what happened in the Lomachenko fight, unfortunately.
No, I agree. I agree. And that's the thing. It's just people they want to put that out there to kind of discredit him. But with another fighter, having that same kind of win, we're like, oh, you got to win over him. At the end of the day, you have to look at the wins and
Right.
losses, and every fight is going to be you're gonna have difficult nights. I mean, very seldom. Like, who have we met up to this point that has had an easy night with Lomachenko, even at this stage of the game? Like, he is who he is for a reason. But I agree with everything you said. I mean, it's Devin Haney. I feel really stamped himself as we always looked at him kind of on this prospectish level, but we can't.
Right.
He's a 2 division world champion,
And he's getting better.
you know,
That's the scary part.
and, he's improving, he's improving as a fighter. It's not like he's peaked and let's just see, we're talking about a potential welterweight run, and we're hearing this fight with him and Ryan Garcia that might have legs. We'll see,
Yeah.
but I mean,
Yeah.
I think at this point, man, it's like really trying to grab the bag.
I
And
mean, right. But look, at the end of the day, right, he made the fights that the people wanted to happen in
right,
2023. Like,
right,
that's what we going by. Like, and you brought up Bud. Well, I'm sure we'll get into that. What you said, like with context, and not to jump in front, but Bud for once this year, so
right, right. Which is
it
you
is
got to
what
put
it
that,
is.
yeah, you got to put that on the table.
Yeah.
When it
Got to be
concerns,
fair when you're having these conversations. You got to take your emotions out of this and go with the facts. That's what
right.
it's table. Availability is the best ability.
Yeah. No, you're right, man. And I think, and obviously with Crawford and Spence, I mean, you were there, and again, it's and part of why, not really part, big reason why, at least for we're gonna have a performance of the year kind of award. I do give that to Crawford for this. I mean, because I've watched this fight 4 times already.
Yeah.
It's and somebody had made a comment about it, but I had thought about it as well. Very seldom do you get a fight of this level where you had 2 undefeated creme de la cremes of the division. And I mean, we were noting it this version's Leonard Hearns, and these kind of things. That, listen, we did know Spence had obvious setbacks outside the ring. We didn't want to put them on the table like this was an end all be all, and we even to this day don't try to. But it's something unfortunately we've had to. But that being said, the night going into this fight, all of us were just really pins and needles, man. Like we thought
Crazy.
we thought
Yeah.
like in our heads, like, yeah, this should happen, but
Yeah.
it's one of those nervous settings where you start like getting nervous, and it's like you're not even part of the fight, but like you're getting nervous about to watch something because it ultimately was, man, we really don't know what's gonna happen, which was part of the excitement for this fight. But you've been watching boxing just as long, like give or take as long as I have, man,
Mm-hmm.
and we've seen dudes that were at their peaks, their primes, and they fought. And 9 times out of 10, they come out that way. Even if the fights aren't uber exciting, there's a level. Like, kind of like, one guy may be going and then they catch up, but there's like an even flow. I've never seen in my lifetime with fighters I've seen as the eras have gone on, in a fight of this kind of magnitude, where it was a complete domination, like complete. And
Yeah.
again, it's two of the best pound for pound guys in boxing. This isn't like just a champion in the division and then the number one guy. No, man, this is like the number one against the number four
Yeah.
guy, not in the division, pound for pound.
Pound for pound.
They
In all of boxing.
right.
Yeah.
And you were there,
Yeah.
man. Like give me a sense of, because this is why I like it's one thing watching it on TV,
Yeah.
but like what was the crowd like as you saw this fight literally unfold?
You know, and Roberto, I always tell you about the story when my dad came home and woke me up and gave me the Agla Hearns t-shirt. I'll never forget, he came in like real late at night, the yellow, the yellow with the red writing, war, that whole thing. And back then I was like, man, I want to go to something like this. I want to be a part of something like this. And all those years later, we had a lot of fights. We had a lot of great fights over the years, but we never had anything like this. That's why everybody was clamoring for it. I think you Kaustin summed it up perfectly, where you got two fighters, equal footing, 1-5, same pound for pound list. Um, Everything was on the line, undisputed. It was such a unique set of circumstances. So when you get to a fight like this out in Vegas, I don't know if people have been out to Vegas, but Vegas, when there's a fight, is just a different. I've been out there when there's no fight, and I've been out there for fights. But the atmosphere, you could just feel there was something different taking place. The OGs was out. Remember, we talked about this, Roberto. We said this fight is going to bring the OGs that don't normally come out. So you had a lot of old heads that I was talking to from all walks of life, from Detroit, from Albuquerque. I was just meeting people from all over. And they said, yeah, this is like Hagler Hearns, Leonard Hagler, Leonard Duran, that whole nine. It just, the energy just felt different. And it was something that I always clamored, that I always wanted to go to and be a part of. And the night before the fight was the weigh-in. I never been to a Mayweather weigh-in. I never been to a Canelo weigh-in. Talked to people, they said, no, none of them was like this. None of them was like this. Because the energy for the weigh-in, and I'm going to get into Crawford for a second, because I picked Spence to win the fight. But the energy for the weigh-in was so different. First of all, Bud had he had like the whole state of Nebraska there, first and foremost, right? People with babies, and I remember I was telling you, all types of stuff going on, right? So we get in the weigh-in. They got Tyson, Holyfield, all the greats. I think Roy was there. A lot of these guys I never saw in person. I saw Mike Tyson fight in person. I never saw Roy fight in person. Never saw a Holyfield fight. So this is my first time seeing some of these dudes up close and personal. And then the announcement happened. I forgot for a second it was a weigh-in. It felt like a fight. So Crawford comes out to, hey, Mr. Carter.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking to myself, I'm like, I'm picking Spence, but Crawford energy just feels different. He was remember how he came out so confident, he was smiling. And like Spence always been like a laid back dude. I try not to buy too much into his speech is slurring, this, that, and the third. Because to me, he always been like he's a southern dude. I'm from up north, I'm from Philly. So all those guys from the South talk slow to me, just from me being from where I'm from. But I never paid too much into that. I was just looking at, just watching body language and energy, and I was like, "Oh, Spencer's kind of how he always is," but Crawford he stole that moment. Then you fast forward the next day to the actual fight. We all know who he walked out with and how that went down with the net around his body, and then it happened, Roberto. What was the first thing I told you? I said, I want to see how this first clinch looks. Even though I was picking Spence, I said clinching kind of dictates everything for a guy like Earl Spence because he liked to play bully ball. He liked to hold on you, punch you off the break, push you all around. That first clinch, I just posted on my page when he gave that little chicken wing, the little nudge to Spence to give some space, and he said, "Get the F off me," and shoved Spence down there across in the third row somewhere. I whispered to my man, I said, the fight is over. My man, he followed boxing, but he not into it like how we into it. He said, well, how you figure that? I said, you'll see. And it was a wrap from that point on. And then here we are now. But the moment was crazy, just to say the least. Yo, just let me say this real quick, right? When we walked out of the arena that night, everybody was stuck. Like, even people that picked Crawford, to your point, Roberto, nobody expected that. Like, it was this one boy in front of me. He was like, look, I picked Crawford, but damn, I didn't expect that. Like, people was dumbfounded because we was expecting to see a close fight, no matter which way he was going with it. And then it just turned into a massacre real quick. And not like Hagler Hearns, because, Hearns actually got some good shots off on Hagler. They just didn't budge him. So it wasn't like that. It was just a one lopsided affair, and people were just dumbfounded by it. So hell yeah, that has to be the performance of the year. Hell yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and absolutely, because it was like you said everything, because it's just going into this fight. We were looking at this supposedly. I picked Crawford, but again, to that same point that you mentioned, I did not expect to see what I saw. And after that second round, and you brought up the clinch, like I'm watching it with like a couple of friends of mine who, again, they like boxing, but they don't see those
They're
kind of
not
things.
paying attention to that type of stuff. They don't not
Oh,
peeping game.
right. And I told them, I go, yo, Spencer's gonna have a problem. And my man's like, why? I'm like, yo, he's letting Spence no time in his, man, because
Yeah, all for grit.
that
All grit.
you know Spence is the stronger guy. And I was like, and me and ROD have brought this up, like, this dude wrestled. You know,
Yeah. See it.
like, there's those clips of him
Yeah.
wrestling that some dude from the Kazakhstani team or whatever, and he like pinned him,
Oh,
and he has
what was that? Yeah, remember that video that was
a
floating around that
while
he
ago.
flipped over?
Yeah,
The dude he flipped over?
yeah. But he's he's got like strength that, like, it's not like a bodybuilding contest, but like he's very strong, man. And
Yeah.
once that happened, I was like, oh. But he didn't Crawford didn't let off a lot of shots early in the first
No,
round, but then he started,
it was a fill-out process for sure. He was
yeah,
setting him up.
and he
Yeah.
started doing these quick little right hooks, and I was like, oh.
Yeah.
He started slowly see them come out, and then little by little, when he did that, it was
Oh, what's up, bro?
like a lead left, and then he like hit him with like a hard jab. But again, it's like he fights both ways, so it was like it was kind of a right hand. I mean, it was a right hand, but it was just the way when you watch that shot, like
Mhm.
not from Crawford's angle, but from the angle where Spence gets hit, you see it like he hits him like almost down, and it was almost like the reverse of what he did to Kell Brook, where he did that little check
Mhm.
hook to Kell Brook. He kind of did the opposite to Spence, where he kind of checked him like and hit him with the right hand, like but like he hit him like almost on the neck, and that's why he fell the way he did. I mean, the people was like, oh, he was off balance. Like he
Yeah.
got rocked that shot.
He got his head got rocked. It looked. I thought it was off. You know, being at the fight
Yeah,
live, you don't get a chance, you know, to see well, it was a replay on the jumbotron. But if you know, it's just different. I thought he was off balance at first too. Then I saw it again. I'm like,
yeah,
oh shoot,
and then
yeah.
from there, that man, it
He never really
was
recovered from that. Like, you know, I think that like for a lot of it, he was fighting on adrenaline. But Bud was nobody was beating Bud that night. He fought a perfect, to your point, and I was trying to jog my memory of fights of this magnitude that was lopsided. Obviously, James Toney, Roy Jones come to mind. I was a James Toney fan. I've been on the opposite side of all of these, by the way.
yeah,
I was a huge James Toney fan. Like that would be like seeing Floyd get dominated by Shane Mosley, like the way that went down, right? Then you got, speaking of Floyd, you got Floyd Chico Corrales, you know, which was supposed to be this big fight,
uh-huh.
not to those level fights, but still, it was a big fight at the time and was a one-sided affair.
Yep, yeah. I mean, I think for Crawford now, it's just really he's won going into 2024. I mean, look, we're still sitting here like thinking, trying to figure out if they're going to do this rematch or not. You hear they are, but I guess, but you,
Crawford,
you just kind of wonder, I mean, theoretically, like, do we need to see that fight again, or
um,
we just, you know,
I, I don't need to see it, but you and I understand if it was to happen, why
why
it would happen.
what happened, right?
We look. We just talked about the closing of one era. We're talking about networks now, not fighters. Showtime just closed their chapter now. Amazon
Yeah,
Prime, who people see, who Earl Smith fights under,
right.
just signed a deal with Amazon Prime, and they're going to need fights.
Yeah,
They're going to need dates and fights filled, and unfortunately, Crawford and Spence is probably gonna have to fill one of those dates from a namesake, you know, from a marketing perspective. You know, you need names, and
yeah,
I think the second fight gonna be worse than the first fight. Me personally, I don't care what weight it's at. But I understand why. I'm not mad at it. I get it. I'm not going. I won't be going to that,
yeah,
but
yeah.
I'll watch it. But I'm not going. But you know, unfortunately, it's the business side that some fans might not be privy to know about and understand. There's a business side to this, so therefore, they have to cash in on a deal that they just made. So unfortunately, we probably gonna get it. The big question is when. And hold up, and I'm gonna ask you this is a twofold question, Roberto, I'm kind of stuck on this because it's like Crawford, it's almost like his success took a shot at me, to borrow a line from American Gangster. It's like he won this big fight, and then like I feel like some momentum got taken away because he was going to move up to 154, potentially become an undisputed champion again. But Jermell Charlo, who was the undisputed, had his belts taken away from him, and then he got the Spence fight kind of just laying in the balance out there, and then it's like a who's who. Then you got Boots Ennis at 147 pounds, his current, somewhat current weight class. I'm on Crawford, but Crawford has pretty much been adamant saying that look, he's only chasing blockbuster fights from here on out. He brought up Canelo, and I don't know who else he said, but so I don't know. How you think this is all going to unfold for him in 24?
I mean,
What does it look like?
it's see, like personally, I feel the Spence, like I agree with you with the Spence fight. It's almost like they have to kind of make it to facilitate both fighters, you know, because it's the biggest money they can still kind of make. But then, like, if you really think about it from a marketing standpoint, that's a tough sell, even because to tell the casual public, oh well, the fight different weight class now, it'll be different. Like most people don't subscribe to that, you know.
No,
Like you look at some of the
no,
biggest matches in history, we know about the weight classes, but like the everyday Joe isn't gonna know like Leonard and Hearns. You know, the rematch was at like what, like 160 or 168 or whatever. Like no one thinks about that stuff. So I don't know, man. Like I just think the first fight was, you were there. It was a complete domination. How do you sell the rematch? Oh, I was weight drained. He already said he wasn't.
right.
But what,
Well,
you know,
yeah. No, I don't know, bro.
the
I
only
mean,
two fights I think is just whatever they map out is he wanted Jermell. The Canelo fight really ruined a lot of that, and then let alone he let two of his belts go. So you know he wanted to be undisputed at 154. That's just kind of next to impossible at this
yeah,
point.
I don't think it can happen. Not in a year of time. That's like a 2-year process. And
Right?
I don't
He
think you have to do that.
ain't
Yeah.
gonna do that. So I don't know, man. If I were to roll the dice, unless Spence just isn't ready and he has to get a fight in, something tells me he's gonna move up in weight. Like I don't think he's gonna stay at 147
I,
anymore. And
I agree. I agree.
whatever whatever he does from there, I think he's just trying to land big fight. You know what I'm saying? But that's
Okay.
gonna he's in a tough position, man. He really is.
Yeah, it's hard to say it. You be like, I know people are probably like, well, how can a guy is in a tough situation after just winning a fight of that magnitude? But like you just said, there's a lot of variables and different things out there. Like he doesn't want to stay at welterweight no more. You know, he don't want to give the young kid a shot. You know, coming up. You know, he'd rather go out, you know, and then look, let me just put some context and something into this. Look, as a boxing fan, I would love to see him give Boots a shot. You know, Boots is from Philly. He's a hometown kid. You know, I would love to see him get that opportunity. And also understand there's a business element to the sport. And I know that guys like him who didn't make a whole lot of money, talking about Crawford, he just made on the north side of 20-something million dollars for the first time of his career. It's hard to go backwards when you start making that type of money. So it's hard for like a movie actor to go from, you know, blockbuster movies to straight to DVD movie. Well, now yes, it'll be streaming, you know. But you get the gist of what I'm saying. So I just think he's just looking for big time fights. Unfortunately for him, it's the weird time that he's coming up. A division that he's moving into, which is 154. You got guys like Tenzu there. Um, who else is there? Virgil Ortiz just moved up there. So there's some names up there. I don't know if they're necessarily blockbuster. Now Tim Tszyu is a name to keep an eye out
Right.
for because you know me and you we talked about this. This is a potential fight that can be a blockbuster fight because look he comes with a whole country behind him. Um, you know a namesake. You know his father Costa Tszyu, future Hall of Fame. I mean, current Hall of Famer, a pedigree his dad had. Tim is kind of building his own pedigree. So, you know, there's some legs there with that potential fight on the horizon, but I don't know if it's a big blockbuster fight yet. You know, that's still kind of brewing and gotta marinate. Outside of that, you know what the other name is, Roberto. I ain't want to say it. You didn't say it, but should we say
Yeah,
it?
yeah. Listen, it's obviously Canelo Alvarez, man, and
Yeah.
he's kind of he's the controlling pot in boxing right now, man. You know, it's funny. People want to bring up like the faces of boxing, but you know, what you really should look at is who's controlling the narrative in the sport as it concerns of how fighters are moving. You know, because there's a trajectory, and it's still Canelo Alvarez, but he's another one that this year um, had a pretty interesting year. You know, he fights a mandatory in that of John Ryder. for the WBO, and then signs a PBC deal, a 3-fight deal, and the first fight is a fight with Jermell Charlo, who we just talked about, who went up from 154 to 168. We saw how that turned out.
Who was originally supposed to fight Jamal Charlo, but Jamal was a last minute fill-in.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And funny enough, you know, even that being said, Jamal became kind of like this potential May opponent, or we don't know at this point, but
so basically, what you're saying, Roberto. So Canelo signed a deal with PBC. We talked about dates and big names to help fill some dates to close the year out. Basically, essentially, is what happened.
that's kind. You could say
Yeah,
that, yeah. Being
yeah.
at
I'm
this,
not counting for words, but like
yeah,
we
yeah.
keep it a being. Let's call it for
Yeah,
what it is.
yeah.
That's
And look, man, there's no secret. Canelo had a pending PBC deal even before he had kind of re-upped with his own.
right.
Um, so we always knew that door was open, but it it just seemed like it made sense to him to kind of take this now. Now, obviously, with,
Yeah.
with the notion of hopefully that last fight being against the guy that we just mentioned that had a kind of a breakout year was David Benavidez. He had 2 fights on pay-per-view. I mean, I don't know what the numbers were as far as what the Boo Boo fight did or what the
Yeah,
Caleb.
they've been, they don't really, how that go. They don't really showcase these numbers.
So
And I understand why
yeah,
they don't do it, because fans all of a sudden think that they work for the Nielsen ratings, where they flashing pay-per-view
yeah.
numbers, which is crazy, but
Yeah.
that's a whole nother story.
So Canelo's in this. He's in this very unique, interesting position because he's staring at 2 fights that could be very lucrative fights
Mm-hmm.
that each bring their own kind of risk in different ways. And obviously, those 2 names, like you mentioned, who Terrence Crawford's gunning at, it is Canelo Alvarez, but then you have David Benavidez,
So
who
hold on real quick, but before we get to Benavidez, because there's people out there that's like, the Canelo talk is crazy when it comes to Bud Crawford. How realistic is this fight taking place? What weight does it take place at? Like how like if I gave you a percentage, if you had to give me a percentage, what would be the percentage that you think this fight A could happen, and B, how would it happen?
well, see, ideally, man, it would really depend on what Canelo decides to do. Let's just say in May. And that's kind of a question mark right now. Like, we were hearing about Jaime Munguia, maybe Jamal,
Stay busy fights.
state
Tune up. Yeah.
fights. But then it becomes, and listen, man, Canelo's about making bread, right?
For
Now,
sure.
you have to kind of look at it. There's 2 different ways to look at it, man. I mean, you could look at it in the sense with Terrence Crawford. I understand his point of view. Canelo's saying, well, listen, like you guys talk about Jamal was too small and came up to 168. What is it going to be if Terrence Crawford moves up and like I get no credit for
Yeah.
beating him?
I agree with him there. Yeah. You
Yeah,
got a point there. Yeah.
I get that, but then there's also the risk of what if I do lose to a guy that
Yeah.
came up 3
He's
weight
in a
class?
lose. He in a lose-lose situation. I mean, to be honest with you, monetary wise, I think it's a
Either
great business. I'll
way,
put it like this: out of everything that's on the table, that's the best one right there. But like you said, from a legacy point, like if you lose, damn, you lost to a welterweight. If you win, you beat a
you beat a
welterweight.
welter,
You know what I mean?
right?
Like
Now look,
it's tricky.
be fair.
Then Bud got to move up and catch weight first. I don't think he's going to move right up to fight Canelo if it does that.
Like we've seen like Ray and Roberto Duran and Tommy Hearns And these guys move up to 160 to fight Marvin Hagler. And, you know, that was like at times two weight class jump just to fight him.
Yeah, 2 weeks. Yep.
Now, with Bud going from 147 to super middleweight, again, this is like Canelo not conceding. And this is the thing. Canelo don't gotta concede to anybody.
No. Yeah.
He's the controlling factor here. And it's just, you know, you really start to, like, if you're asked like what's the believability that fight were to really happen, I'll tell you, and then we'll get to Benavidez. Like, if I were to roll the dice as a concern, and look, if I'm wrong, then I'll sit back and watch. But I think there's a bigger probability of the Benavidez fight than there is with the Crawford fight.
Agreed.
And I think
Agreed.
just
Yeah.
the thing with Canelo, I feel, man, is he's a smart businessman, but there is a pride side here that I think at this point you've got a lot of options, you know, and that's why I made the mention you could go fight Crawford, the lucrative fight, but again, it's like you're painting that narrative that you're already speaking against. Here's this young kid that everybody says is gunning for you,
Right.
And I try to make this point, like, boxing's not all based on nationalities, and like, we get that, but when you have a fight of this stage with two big Mexican fighters, you're just speaking economics, man. And if they do that fight in, like, whether it's in Vegas or in Texas, that's gonna be a monster, no pun, like, event.
Yeah.
Like, that's gonna be like
I think I might go to that. I think I might go back out there for that.
That would be crazy, man. Like,
Yeah.
that really crazy. And then you start to argue whether, like, what fight would really do the bigger business. Like, if you really think about it,
What, between Bud and
Canelo Benavidez fight.
You mean between Bud and Canelo versus
Yeah.
Canelo and Benavidez? I think it's tricky. I think the Benavidez and Canelo fight would do better business.
I just think that's not to say Crawford and Canelo there wouldn't be a big turnout. Like,
Oh no, it's a big fight, but, like, you know, if I had to pick what would do better box office wise, yeah, I gotta go with Benavidez Canelo. Just off the, like you said, strictly off of, it's a pro Mexican fan base. So you just kind of bring it a little bit more from that respect, you know, fandom. Not that Bud hasn't created his own, you know, fanfare himself, but
yeah,
I think Benavidez is kind of grown into his own. Obviously, Canelo hold his weight. It's the thing, when you bring two good fighters like this together, and given like the backdrops of both of that heritage, I just, like, it's hard to compete with that.
Yeah,
it's hard.
Yeah,
it's hard.
You're 100% right, and I think a lot of times the whole ethnicity and the nationalistic side of the fight,
yeah,
doesn't really play as big a role to the casual public who still wouldn't buy this fight, because it's two action fighters, and to the casual public, they eat that up.
Yeah.
But even said, it's still if you really think about it, it's the biggest fight of 2024 if you really break it down.
So one thing real quick, and me and you, we talk offline about this a lot. When it's quiet like this, something big that means some conversation it's too quiet right now. Because last year around this time we had fights already lined up. Right. But I said it's really quiet right now. We don't really have, other than Usyk and Fury, Joshua, Wilder. Well, that's off the table now for now. But Usyk, Fury, which who the hell knows with that? But that's really the only big fight that's technically signed. Now you got other fights out there, but I'm talking blockbuster fights. Right. It's quiet right now. But many, and you joked about this last year, but I still think it applies this year. Crawford is affecting like 4 different weight classes.
Yeah.
It's crazy, right? Like, it is.
You mentioned fights that I believe are under the Top Rank banner, which is kind of signals, one of the big stories this year, man, was Showtime's exit from boxing, and where was the PBC headed? And there's a rumor for months that they were going to land this deal with Prime, Amazon, and they did.
Yeah,
It's been very quiet. I think naturally they wanted to let the literal year go by.
for sure.
I want to
Yeah.
say by the beginning of this month, this coming month, we should get somewhat of a proverbial rollout. And
A schedule of some sort. What it looks like? Do you get this?
what we're gonna get, yeah.
Yeah,
Are we? Is it gonna be basically the same thing that we had on Showtime
yeah,
over to the PBC? Now the difference, Al and the PBC got to come up with the bread. They got to
yeah,
do the production. They got to do it. Everything is on them now. This is what they call in the music business a distro deal.
yeah, yeah.
They're getting a platform. Here you go. It's up to you to provide. And they do this
So
in the industry too. So this is good. I mean, we're waiting, man. We're waiting to see how
yeah,
this is going to unfold.
so many factors got to play out. Like the Crawford and Spence, are they? There's dates available in the spring, which we were talking about March,
Right.
around March, right? We talking. Then you got Javante Davis that's out there. I'm sure they're going to want to kind of kickstart that network. There's some rumors, there's some whispers out there. That, some of this stuff you can't keep secret. Pitbull Cruz was the name that came up for Javante, kind of kickstarting the new Prime deal off. Now the question, like you said, Roberto, is it pay-per-view? Is it like a situation where you just click on your Prime Video icon and just start watching boxing? I mean, I guess we're going to find out. Of course, they're going to have pay-per-view, but I'm just wondering, like, will this first rollout be a pay-per-view or just like kind of just go on the app and just go from there? But I guess we'll see.
Yeah. No. And I think I've been preaching that they have to really utilize the Prime platform. And
Yeah,
yeah, there's going to be
the platform,
you,
Yeah.
but can't. I just felt they need to change the business model a little bit. And the one thing that the PBC hasn't done, even again as well as Top Rank still does, is develop young talent. And here you go, like put on cards or put on shows on Prime that showcase that younger talent that we didn't get to see a lot of the time, and I just think they need to make
Agreed. That's
people
fair.
aware who these fighters are. That's how we got familiar with them on any other network, that showcased fighters.
The one thing that was interesting, I don't remember what card it was, and Michele Rivera, speaking of young fighters who lost to Frank Martin, another good fighter, but they had him on the prelims, I believe. I don't even think he was on TV. And I just sat here and I questioned that, like, how can a fighter lose once? He got one loss, Roberto, or two? I can't
Thing
remember.
one.
Okay, that's even worse. So how does a fighter lose one time and he's on? And there's no disrespect to prelims because for those who don't know what a prelim is prelims are the preliminary fights that come on before you see the actual pay-per-view fights. So he was actually on. Some of the prelims are televised, so I was able to watch this particular prelim fight with him, and I'm like, why is he on a major? Like, why is he a part of the card?
Yeah.
Like, I get y'all want to get, he's want to get his confidence back and all that, and getting back in the win column. But I don't feel like a fighter should be chastised and punished for one loss to another really good fighter, and be put in the mix with a bunch of like up and coming prospects. Like that don't make a lick of sense to me. So I'm just saying, to your point about showcasing young talent, it's like they put them on you put these young fighters on a pedestal, then immediately snatch the rug from underneath them.
Yeah.
That just bothered me, like, because I forget what. Matter of fact, was it the Benavidez card? I can't remember. I know it was somewhere. So anyway, we got Bud. We talked about him performance of the year. Now let's get into like some of the other stuff out there, like I know you got a fight of the year, but I want you to get into that. What you think your fight of the year was?
I guess I might buy it, but I mean, just the fight that we got a few weeks ago at time with the top rank well, not even the undercard, the main card with Robeisy Ramirez, and I'm already forgetting the guy's name. That
Espinosa is his last name. I don't remember his first
yeah.
name.
So
Tall Mexican kid, lanky,
yo,
featherweight.
watching that fight live was, you again, we've seen crazy fights before, but I mean, to see just everything that transpired in that fight and just how it culminated, and then again the decision that you rarely see these days, where the champ, you got to convincingly beat the champion.
Hell of a fight. Hell of a fight.
It was just like, wow, man. I mean, that's my nominee for fight of the year, man. I mean,
So, look, I know that you're not, but I got some questions about Robeisy Ramirez. And one of my concerns with him, Roberto, and this was that I said he's a little too wild and reckless for me, right? And I don't think that was the reason that he lost. Do you think that was one of those like poor match? Shout out to Bruce Trampler. I think he's still the matchmaker over there for Top Rank, but Top Rank is normally on top of matchmaking, like when they got an up and coming guy like what they had with Ramirez. And look, sometimes stuff just go wrong. It happens in with a lot of different promotional stables. But I just felt like here, I'm like, just remember, I didn't see the fight live. You was talking about it because I was watching the Ben Rodriguez and Sonny Edwards fight. So I never even got that was the same night, right?
yeah, right.
Okay.
Same time.
Same time. So I didn't get a chance to watch the fight. So I'm like, I'm watching the fight, and you was texting in the group chat like, "Yo, this dude he's huge." Pause, but you like, he's big. Like, this is crazy. You like, and he got a motor. So then I got a chance to actually watch the fight, and I'm like, "What the hell?" And this wasn't
fight up.
this ain't Brandon Figueroa, who's a tall but Brandon Figueroa throw a lot of arm punches. This dude was throwing some mustard. Like everything has starch on it, and he had these long arms. Ramirez is he's a little dude. He's small. Explosive. He's explosive. But and shout out to Iron Scribe. I always told Iron Scribe, I said, him and I was going back and forth. Robeisy Ramirez remind me of a poor man's Eureka's Gamboa. Okay. Like the reason why I say that, like Eureka, and I'm not just saying because they both, Cuban Olympians. It's just stylistically, I feel like Ramirez, he's an explosive fighter, but he's not explosive. Like put it like this: for all the flaws that I think Ramirez has, like dropping his hand, getting careless, Gamboa had those equalizers. You know what I'm saying? Like he could put your lights out. Where Ramirez, then his gas tank got emptied in that fight as well because Espinosa was just pressing him nonstop. And this is why we're going to get into to who you think is the fighter of the year. This is why I always thought that fight was all wrong for him if it ever materialized. But it's not to write him off and say Ramirez's career is over, but I don't know, man. Like that style he has, when you fight guys like this, like a Navarrete type guys, even though he's a weight class north, but I don't know, bro. I mean,
Espinosa looked
that's troubling, and this is my opinion.
Espinosa looked like he looked like a junior welterweight.
He's huge.
Like, and when you saw the fight, when the bell rang, I was texting with y'all, man. I was like, "Yo, this looks like."
I remember. Yeah.
This looks like Cotto Margarito 1. and I need to argue, like,
you did.
Size relation, Espinosa bigger pause than Margarito in scale wise, but early on it looked like Ramirez he did get he got clipped. The second round he comes back and you think he's hurt.
Yeah.
He comes back, it drops Espinosa, and I'll be honest, the round might have saved him. But as the fight pressed on, it was just little by little by little. And mind you, Ramirez, in between all of the pressuring that Espinosa was doing, he managed to land like a lot of these
Oh,
and,
absolutely.
and he
Yeah.
and he hurt Espinosa a couple more times, but
He wouldn't stop.
that ass pain becomes serious because by rounds 11 and 12, where Ramirez looked like he was trying to coast, Espinosa who's cutting the ring off very well, and he was just throwing
Yeah.
punches the barrage, and he took a knee, like
Yeah.
he took a Ramirez took a knee, but the fact that they gave the decision to Espinosa in the manner that they did was very surprising
Very, yeah.
because I mean it was a close fight, man, but it really is dependent how you score boxing. Like effective pressure.
And remember,
He
he didn't complain either, though. He was like, you
no,
know, yeah,
there wasn't no robbery talk,
yeah.
and I tell you, even the crowd there that obviously was predominantly Cuban. I'm sitting behind these
I
dudes.
forgot you. Yeah, you was there.
Yeah,
You was there
dude was
live at that joint.
I told him, like, when the 10th round, I turned around, I told him in Spanish, I go, yo, these dudes, like, I go, yo, Ramirez is tailing off, man. And
Yeah,
they're like, yeah. And, like, they knew that they knew what was going on. And when he took the knee, I looked back at them. They're like, so when they made the announcement and you didn't hear, like, oh, like, yo, the Cuban, there's a lot of Cubans out there. And they were all like, yo, y'all probably got that. So,
yeah.
but what a fight! Yeah,
That
man. Like
was,
again, that
that was a, it
because
was a great fight, and I'm curious. I'm curious if Ramirez want to run that back. I'm just curious. Or do
honestly,
you just kind of let that be and move on?
I don't think he wins that
Yeah.
rematch. Um,
It's too much. The problem with running a fight like that back, what differently? Like that's what I'm saying. Stylistically, you like he can't pay. He doesn't have a keep away
right.
style. He's not a back foot fighter that's going to box more in the second fight. Like he could
He's
potentially
not
get stopped in the
right.
second fight.
He's not that elusive. When
He's
people make
not
the
a,
comparison now and
that's my
Lara,
point.
he doesn't fight
Yeah,
like that. He'll get hit. He's
yeah,
not sitting there like it's not a gaudy warfare, but he tries to counter. But in the midst of those counters, he's getting hit with stuff. And a lot of what happened with um in this fight was that he was just getting hit with body shots and he
yeah.
wasn't moving, and that took a toll on him.
It's hard when you fight these linky long guys. If you can't crowd them, you can't take that away from them. We just watched Parker, a smaller dude, crowd Deontay
Yeah,
Wilder. And this is different styles, as far as the type of problems that Espinosa presented to Ramirez versus what Wilder presented to Parker. But the method is still the same. Like the plan gotta be we got a crowd, take away stuff. That's the type of thing you need to do there. But like you said, it's a good fight to be fight of the year. Action packed back and forth. Now I'm gonna throw you a curve, right? We can move on to the next one, and I had to really think hard about this, and it's a lot of fights that took place this year, right? I'm like, me and you both might be forgetting one. But I'm going with Caleb Plant and David Benavidez. I think people forget how entertaining that fight was.
good fight.
It
That was a really good
was a really, it was a shocking fight. Shout out to Brig, that's our people's. But obviously we were supporting our guy Brig, man, with Caleb. But I was really shocked how physical Caleb was in that fight. And I think it might have shocked Benavidez too. Again, open the show with this. A young fighter learning. I think Caleb was like a teacher for Benavidez. Like I feel like Benavidez grew up right in front of our eyes in that fight. He had to fight a guy that was for the first time in his career that wasn't going to sit right in front of him. But Plant kind of held his ground. He didn't just completely fight off the back foot. He clinched. He held on. I know that's some stuff him and Brid had worked on. People was like Kenny Bayless allowed too much clinching. Look, at the end of the day, rather if he didn't, clinching is a part of the sport. And Benavidez, that's why I mess with Benavidez. To his credit, you know what he said? I got to learn how to break out of clinches quicker.
and he
Or
that right did that in the Boo Boo fight.
immediately. But the fact that he acknowledged that
Yeah.
instead of complaining like, oh well, I could have did this or that. But the ref, look, at the end of the day, you can control your own destiny in that ring. And he learned. He said he learned from the plant fight. But anyway, not to get off track. For me, that was my fight of the year because of the back and forth action. You know, the way it ended. It was literally a tale of two fights. You had the slick technical fighter being more physical than the more physical guy anticipated, and made for a good fight. So we here and here, but either way, you can't go wrong on that.
No, that was a good fight. That was a good fight for sure. So before we wrap up, man, fighter of the year.
Here we go.
I mean, this one
Here we
again,
go.
like,
Yeah.
there's other people that will have different answers, and they'll have that.
So make this great. Yeah, it's no right or wrong.
Now, for me, man, like, I had to go with Inoue because in his first fight at 122, he doesn't fight like, I'm gonna get a little feeler. Oh, okay, yeah, that guy's been at 120. No, he went right from Fulton and dominated him in his first fight at 122, and then we had the 6 a.m. special the other day, the other morning.
And that fight at least was 9 in the morning when he fought Fulton. So at least,
yeah, like, even still, right? And then he unifies completely 122 pounds, a couple days ago, to become undisputed in two fights in your first two trips at 122. And again, like, with fighter of the year, yeah, it seems like for me, it was between him and Bud, but I could have put Haney in there too. But I guess I looked at it from the frame of reference of just he went up to a new weight class, fought essentially the two top guys there and beat them in impressive fashion and became undisputed in that weight class. So at least for the year, there's nothing
so you
there. Man. I put Inoue just like a smidge at the top, man.
So my brother from another. So I'm a counter that. Like, see, this is the thing about this. Like you said, it's a tough thing to try to sell because both guys, I think you got legitimate gripes for who I'm getting ready to go with next as my counter. NOA, he's a phenomenal fighter, man. And unfortunately, and I was just telling somebody this about Bam Rodriguez, and it's not fair, but I do think boxing is getting better with this, with guys, from 122 on down. There's more recognition going on. People are recognizing and paying attention to guys like Bam Rodriguez, and he obviously in a way, you got him who's kind of been there. It's funny, he's like 31 years old, right? You look at him as this younger fighter because the American public is kind of just starting to get used to him, but he's been around, he's been here, and like you said, it's a 1-year award, right? Because I think people get caught up into, well, Bud has been doing it.
Yeah.
It's a 1-year award, but anyway, for the casual public, they don't know a lot of these names. Fulton was a named American kid from Philadelphia. People got a chance to see him against Brandon Figueroa. I'm like, interesting, and that name's the biggest name that the public know, right? But like you said, he's the only other multiple undisputed champion that we have in boxing. Male, right? Because I think it's a female boxer that has it, but male boxing. And the other guy's Bud Crawford. It's just two guys. Mm-hmm. And one guy did it, like you said, in dominating fashion by moving up, where Bud was in his respective weight class. The only reason why I'm personally going with Bud is because of the way you opened it. That's funny because it's almost like you made my argument for me early on when you just said, when you talked about how everything that was on the table, like this was a legacy fight. It was a pound for pound, because he got this little, 122-pound fighter breathing down his neck. Like that was on the line. Like I gotta show up and show out. And the level of domination that what he did. Because we can get into car accidents, weight drain, like you said. At the end of the day, Crawford was the better fighter, and he dominated him, dominated Earl Spence, and I think he dominated him. Not dominated, but I think he solidified himself as the number one guy in boxing. And it's tough because I don't want to be unfair to anyway, because he did kind of the same thing too. Now Fulton is now a name that's on the level of Earl Spence, but still world champion, slick technical fighter, and anyway was able to really flash his armor in that fight, right? So it's like it's tough. Like, I'm not even gonna say a counter, and I know this is like a cheesy way to do it, but it's almost like a 1A1B type situation for me, because it's tough to kind of just like nail one, because you can make compelling arguments for either guy. But like I said, for me personally, for what all was on the table, I guess I kind of got to go with Bud. But I'm mad at it, anyway.
And that's the thing. That's a sign of what kind of year we had.
That's
For those things.
a great problem, by the way, to have.
Right? Yeah,
You
that's what
have
I'm saying. There's nothing wrong with
yeah.
it's just really where you have it, like on the peak of the mountain or like right underneath the peak. It's like right. But yeah, both of them. I mean, I'll be the first to say I think Bud's number one pound for pound in general.
Absolutely, yeah. Overall, right? Yeah.
Sure. He's one that we're gonna have to see next year what happens. With Inoue.
So what do you think next? Because there was talk about him moving up to featherweight. Speaking of Romero, that we just talked about, that was a fight that Top Rank was eyeing. Seemed like a pretty easy fight to make.
I think that would have been kind of like because I'll be honest, man, at 122, I think he's good at 122. I think going to 126, you always have to think about the people are at that weight class are really like two weight classes up, as far as how they really are. And I think at 126, maybe that Robeisy Ramirez fight would have been attractive, where he would have fought for like a legitimate, like fifth division, sixth division, was it fifth division world title?
Yeah, it was fifth, yeah.
But you look at the Ray Vargases, I'm like, okay, but you go in there? Do you go in there? Yeah, do you go in there with an Espinosa though? You know what I'm saying? Like, he doesn't bring a lot of value. It's like, why are you going up to 120? If you're really, you know what I'm saying? But at 122, it's just, I guess, like whatever. There's not a lot of huge names there, so he's really the attraction. Where, I guess we'll see, man. I don't know. I mean, he could fight in the United States, but again, it's all subjected to who he's fighting. But yeah, I don't know, man. And like, I think it's just really going to be maybe just a couple more title defenses. He's going to fight that dude Neary. I think that's probably the next fight, but that's signaling he's staying at 122. So whatever plans I think they make, tell you, maybe that Ramirez fight kind of switched things up where they're like, all right, I'll stay at 122 for now.
Yeah, the talk definitely changed.
Yeah.
I felt like from before, Ramirez is not a big dude, so that
right
made more sense. And they saw, listen, bro, you know how boxing works. They saw some stuff that they could exploit for him, and one of it was that the gas tank, So I think that like now that that's off the table, and then you got this giant, they probably like, no, we good.
Yeah, we good. Yeah, we good, man. Like,
was it you that told me he got his own like Amazon Prime? Not his own, but Japan has like an Amazon Prime deal with Top Rank over there. Got a
that's what Bob talked about, because they were asking him about the deal, and he's like, "Look, man, like kind of what we've been saying, like they just need to put fights on the app. We have a deal with Amazon in Japan, and they televise our joints." And Bob even said, he goes, "They're great people, like, yeah, like, but he's like, they got to do things different."
Real quick, right? When he came to America, he come to America to fight the Maloney brothers. Was it Matt Maloney? I forget which one he fought.
Who, Inoue?
Yeah,
Forgot who he fought. He only fought like here one time, right?
yeah. I think that's who he fought when he came around. I can't remember, but that was it. But I think that because like these cards are so big, I think, and the fighter got a chance to make a life changing purse. Fighters are going to go over there unless you're a star or established star already. Hypothetically speaking, I'm not saying that this fight will take place. Let's just say if Bam Rodriguez continue to grow and he become like a big name. Now we at a standstill. Like, all right, well, I'm not going over there. He's gonna have to come here or meet me somewhere in the middle. Maybe like a Saudi situation, like you saw over the weekend. But I don't know. I guess we'll see. 24, where he go. But I know one thing: he definitely at the top of the food chain for sure.
No.
Like,
Yeah, for sure, man. I mean, he's I think going to be
I
one of these.
recognize that.
Yeah, and you mentioned Bam, who is
Oh man,
really, really good, you little fighter, man. Like,
yes, he is. He be doing.
but
He be doing stuff in there, even be flipping my mind sometime, and I done seen a lot of stuff. And I be like, what the hell?
yeah,
Hold up. Rewind.
yeah, he's good,
Very
man. Like, he's really,
crafty.
really good.
Footwork is crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But I'm excited for 2024, man. I mean, I think, obviously the one big fight we want to see is Canelo Benavidez. I hope that gets made. Well, we're gonna, and then really like a lot of like you already mentioned the Fury Usyk fight, and then
Well, I'm
probably
not holding my breath for that. Hopefully it happens.
becoming like, do you even want to see it? Not to say we won't, but it's like you only get, the milk can only spoil so much, till it just doesn't taste good anymore. Like at some point or another, you have to like look at the signs. Like some
Yeah.
fights maybe never meant to happen. You know what I'm saying? Like we never got Riddick Bowe and Lennox Lewis.
Yeah.
Never got
How about that?
Mike Tyson,
And that fell apart. Like, that was a whole. Because Riddick just talked about that recently. I saw an interview. He was like, the people that was handling his affairs, they didn't handle their business properly.
yeah,
And then people thought I was ducking him,
yeah.
So now let me just say this. I want to see if you agree with me on this or not. I still think Wilder and Joshua is going to happen.
Probably will. Like it
Yeah.
probably will. I just saw something from like to be honest with you, I just think Deontay Wilder. Like I hate to say this with fighters, but I think he's probably done as a fighter, as far as
So
being a
you
top.
cash out. So what fans don't realize.
That's
Go ahead. What's what you gonna
no,
say?
you're right.
Yeah.
You're right. That it's a cash out. It
Yeah.
would be a big cash out fight, and this entire time, I think I could speak for you and for ROD especially. A lot of us had Wilder knocking out AJ. And listen, man,
Yeah.
who's to say it still can't happen, right? But if
Yeah.
I were to
57
roll the dice,
bro, said Joshua Wilder shit happen. They both only got 3 losses.
yeah,
I
man. I mean,
agree with that, but the Rory. What you saying, 57 bro, is on point. You
right,
absolutely correct. But this is
yeah, right, and
that's
that's just
the real reason. Yeah.
right. And look, maybe they have a signed deal already. It gets done anyway. Look, we got Floyd and Zab after Zab got beat.
Remember after that fight, it was funny as hell. They asked Floyd, you know what Floyd said? This is the funniest thing ever. He said, well, I mean, it was a close fight. It could have went either way.
And it's for the IBF title though. Remember,
Yeah,
like
you know why he said it? Because they had a deal. They had a deal already in place because Zab was with Don King at the time.
Right,
They already had a deal in place for them to fight each other. Like, it
right,
was done already.
right.
Like,
So
yeah.
this was a fight that both fights were set up for both guys to win, but Joseph Parker like completely outclassed.
You messed up everything. Because Josh already beat Parker. I don't think you get that fight
Right.
again. So and Joshua probably don't want that, nor should he. Like and look, after the fight, it was funny because I thought about Floyd. He was like he had to become a salesman at that point. He like, Do you guys still want to see me fight Wilder? I was cracking up, but I understood. He like, yo, y'all just messed up my bag. Like, that was a serious payday for him.
Yeah, man, and
Waiting around for Fury and Usyk, and then it never happened. Look, and if Usyk, when he's really screwed, because he's not fighting him a third time.
the only saving grace I feel is if Joshua were to get like another win and Fury beats Usyk, they could still manage to do AJ. It's in a weird way. AJ Fury becomes a fight again. You know,
You talking about Fury? And, oh, that's it. Joshua better pray and hope that Fury beats Usyk, because that fight right there is gonna.
that would be it. That would be
Man,
it.
that you talking about Pacquiao and Mayweather type numbers? No BS. Because how big it is over there, not here. I'm talking about over there. Like, I don't know their pay-per-view structure, but that fight, we talk to people from over there all the time. Like, they're the two biggest probably entertainers, period, in that country.
Yeah.
Over there in the UK.
No, that'll be easy. Like, I mean, that again, like they they would have never. They had. There's history behind them trying to make the fight. It's still a fight that never happened, and at least Joshua, because look, for whatever it's worth, Joshua looked better this past Saturday than he's looked in like his last couple of fights.
He was really dialed in after that loss happened to Wilder. Hell no.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's so it's like at the very least, even if he's still an underdog against Fury, that the fight becomes at least that much more appealing. Or even if Usyk loses and the fight's kind of, then you got to worry about Fury, because he's always that's always an odd situation. Even for this fight, supposedly happening February, you know what I'm saying? Like at any given week, we can hear like, oh, he pulled a fight, or oh, this happened, that happened. But
what if both of them took a lot out of each other in those three fights?
What are you talking about with Fury and Wilder?
Well, Fury and Wilder.
I mean, that could be the case, because we've seen Wilder. I mean, we've seen Fury fight a couple of times after that.
For sure.
He hasn't been like a dog. Well, outside of the whole, the whole fiasco that happened with this.
I still don't really. I don't know. I'm gonna just be quiet on that whole thing. But
yeah,
we won't really know. I'm gonna just say this: we won't really know until he find a real fighter, which is not those other guys wasn't real, but you know what I'm saying. A legitimate, imminent threat, and that's what Usyk is. So
yeah, we'll see. That's gonna be soon. That's gonna be February. So
all right, bro.
But yeah, 2023 is pretty much done.
Don't owe us nothing. We don't. They don't owe us any change. Like, so much stuff happened this year. Like, we could be here for hours. Breaking stuff down, man. A lot of great knockouts, a lot of great rounds, a lot of great fights. We had some breakout prospects come about this year. And they continue to come about. Boots Ennis is still looking for a fight. So hopefully that gets figured out in 2024. And we got boxing on a streaming app now, another streaming app. So while you're going online to go buy some curtains or, a pack of undershirts from Amazon, you can also go in there to watch boxing. So
that's a good way to put it.
Okay.
So we'll see. Yeah, we'll see what's up with the PBC, man. How they do, if it's the same old thing, or they're rolling out a whole new business model, and maybe we'll see more fights on the app.
Like the quietness. We got teased so much with Crawford and Spence. I don't really want to go through that again.
Yeah.
Just tell me when the fights is made, and I'm good with it. Like, let's. I hope that's the new wave going forward. So.
Yeah, man. I mean, again, for the sport to thrive, you need to make the fights that people are going to tune in.
That's why this year was so good,
right?
Because you got the fights that, like you said, people taking calculated risks. We need more of that.
We need more of that. They'll buy the pay-per-views, man. They just want to see the fights. That's it.
Yeah. All right, bro.
In any case, man, happy New Year. We'll see y'all.
everybody, yup, we'll be back stronger. You know, coming back more interaction. You know, we're trying to come up with some stuff. You know, on our YouTube, we would like the people come over there and interact with us live. You know, because it's a little bit more stable than doing these lives over here. So, you know, stay tuned for that, and you know, we'll get back to y'all in 2024.
Sir. Yes, sir. Well, until next year, man, we are out.
All right, bro. I'll let you.
Later, man.